ready.
S-D-P, the Steve Dangle Podcast, with your hosts, Steve Dangle, Adam Wilde, and Jesse Blake.
Let's go!
Guys, I have a question. You both saw the game last night, right? Leafs, Blue Jackets.
Unfortunately.
Okay, all right. So the question I have for you is,
No!
which Toronto Maple Leafs player's personality is to blame for last night's loss? As in, who is too boring to lead the Leafs past Columbus? I just want to know which of the big four it's going to be.
It's got to be the captain. Starts with leadership. It's got to be the captain. The captain
Is John
needs to go in there.
Tavares too boring to lead the Leafs past the Columbus Blue Jackets in the play-in round? Jesse.
I think he might be because I haven't seen enough front foot action. And we know
true.
That's what really gets him excited is
And
when the puck is on the front foot. And we haven't seen that. So right now he's just level, boring.
He's not front foot, haha.
Right. He's not laughing. He's not laughing right now.
Better not miss.
Still the best clip of all time. Steve, what were you going to say before I so ineloquently cut you off?
Well, you know, they represent who the captain is. They show who the captain is on the chest. See on the chest.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, you know what I see? Whenever it's after the game, and he's walking around in his sandals, like hockey players do. They like
Eating his kale?
Yeah, eating his kale. But after the game, after being in those tight boots, they like to let their little feetsies air out. And you know what I see with John Tavares? Toes in pristine condition. Guy doesn't even think about kicking a trash can to motivate his team. You just got to walk in there. You got to have 5 of them lined up. Letterkenny, blah! And just start blah! Kicking them all over the place so that the Toronto Maple Leafs know to score some friggin' goals. That's what they got to do. And if he doesn't do that, bad leadership. Connor McDavid never kicked a trash can in his life.
That's
the only
true.
time he ever kicked a trash can was in 2017. And look at that. They made it to the second round or whatever.
If you don't know what I'm talking about, Adrian Dater of Colorado Hockey Now suggested that Connor McDavid, and this was on Twitter, Connor McDavid is not inspiring enough to lead the Edmonton Oilers to victory. He said he's just too boring. Now, the tweet, as far as I can tell, has been deleted. But Dom Lucian of The Athletic suggested that it might be the team, as in maybe they're not a complete team. As we sort of mentioned, we sort of touched on it, right? Like the Edmonton Oilers are not a complete team completely. And he said, well, also maybe you don't put a sieve in net, to which Adrian Dater responded to Dom, why don't you watch the games and your articles are boring? And then he blocked them. And then he deleted the original tweet. So listen, it's great to be an adult and it's nice to have hockey back, isn't it?
What's with hockey returning and writers fighting on Twitter?
Oh man,
the last 2 days,
stop
we're not going to get there right now, but
the last 24 hours have been unbelievable, man. They've been great.
Yep.
Now we have another writer fight. I pen fight. What do we call it?
Is it
Ink
swords
vengeance?
if they're using pens?
What?
I would
what is
call
it?
it a Cold War. It's been a Cold War for quite some time now between Steve Simmons and James Mirtle.
No, we'll get to that in a second. No,
Oh,
I'm
is that
talking
now
about
you were-
what do we do? What do we call it, Steve? When I don't know what you're looking at, but I don't know.
I tried to
know
do
you're
it
not listening
stealth.
to me.
I tried to do it stealth.
What are you looking up?
I'm looking for the really, really, really funny tweet that I sent you guys a couple days ago.
Okay.
Another Colorado writer.
What I was asking.
Oh,
Yeah, that is funny. Check the media section of the messages, by the way.
You're smart.
Yeah.
You're
So
smart.
what I was asking, Steve, is what do you call a blood feud between hockey writers? You know what I mean? When it finally erupts. I mean, this was 4 months in the waiting, and I think with James and Steve probably longer. Who knows? Although I don't think we'll get to that.
Spilled ink.
No. It has to be no. That's the story about it afterwards. That's the book that's written about the fight. I'm talking about there's like blood feuds. What's a writer's feud? Think about it. We'll come back to it.
a paper tumble. No.
A paper cut.
A paper cut. Yeah, that's a good one.
You know?
That's not bad.
Good one. Mirtle telling Simmons that he can get 40% off these hands.
Would he
All I wanna
subscribe to these
see.
fists?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Leafs.
Are we allowed to start there?
What's that, Jesse?
Can we
Jesse, your mic's
start-
cutting down again. Sorry, buddy.
Can we start with Mirtle and Simmons?
You want to start with that? Okay, so after the game, Morgan Riley and Austin Matthews are on the media Zoom call. And essentially, if you missed this clip, it's sort of like 3.5 minutes long, but about a minute in, the second person to ask a question is Steve Simmons, Toronto Sun. And there is a lot of looking away from the camera from both players. And Steve Simmons asked him about Columbus playing them tight, just a typical hockey question. And Austin Matthews said, "It's a shame that I have to answer a question from you right now. I thought the article you wrote about my health earlier this summer was unethical," and then went on to answer politely Steve's question, which I have to give him credit for. And Steve Simmons tweeted last night that he had no problem with what Austin said to him. He said the reason that would have been shared publicly and not privately is because they wouldn't have been able to have a conversation in the dressing room aside from everybody else. I don't know. I guess that's something that probably happens from time to time with players where it's like, I didn't like that you wrote this about me. When we had Steve Simmons on the podcast eons ago, he talked about certain players. What did he say? But he said Darcy Tucker knew where the commas were.
Yes.
Yeah. So, that is that's a guy that's done it for a very, very long time. However, the fight that erupted was James Mirtle of The Athletic live tweeting what was going on and what was being said, especially the Austin Matthews moment. So Steve Simmons responds, retweets it. Again, I love being an adult because this stuff still happens, and says, James, it would be great. It was very passive aggressive, but it's sort of like show up at the games and actually ask a question.
Well,
now,
it wasn't even that. It's I guess Mirtle had done a radio hit or something that Steve listened to.
Yeah.
Is that what this came from?
I think it was. And Mirtle supposedly was asked, who's been the most impressive Leaf at camp? And Simmons goes, and without hesitation, he said Austin Matthews, but he wasn't there. He wasn't there.
And James Mirtle replied by tweeting out a photo of him at camp, even though Steve
did
Simmons, yeah, with the upside down smiley emoji. This was the response to Steve Simmons, even though Simmons accused Mirtle of never attending one day of camp. He was there.
Right.
I love it.
Now Steve Simmons retweeted James last night as James was talking about what Austin Matthews said to Steve. And Steve said, "This would never happen to James Mirtle. He never asks a question. Never. But he uses everybody else's quotes. He was asked the other day on the radio who the best player at Leaf camp was, and without hesitating, never mind that he hadn't been at Leaf camp once, he said Austin Matthews." Now, that is very funny that James responded like that. But,
I've never understood that. That is obviously something that bugs him. He's brought it up more than once. It's a scrum. What do you think all those microphones are doing? I don't turn it off between questions. I've never turned my mic off because it wasn't my question. Someone asks a good question and it prompts a good answer from the player. I'm using it.
Yes,
and guess what rights you have to it? Nothing. I'll say you asked it as a courtesy, maybe.
It's a public
but
forum.
It's a scrum.
Well, and
I don't owe you anything.
There has been a brooding thing between, and James would hate that we're even talking about this, but there's been a brooding thing between the Toronto Sun and the Athletic for a long time. I know Steve Buffery weighed in, and there have been several other people who have gone toe-to-toe with Athletic guys before because, frankly, there's a new kid in town, and that's frustrating and anxiety-inducing and probably a little annoying for the guys that have been there doing that forever. And so I'm not trying to take sides here, but it's a rivalry, shall we say? As they say, when Austin Matthews and Zach Werenski, former friends from the USA development camp, when Werenski followed through on the Matthews hit, they were jawing at each other.
Which is perfectly fine.
Right, yeah.
Fine.
Yeah. Hey, listen, we're all fired up. The playoffs are back, man. Let's go.
And then there's Lance Hornby and Terry Koshan from the Sun, who are just kind of
really nice
trying
guys.
to do their job. Just, hey, everyone, just here to cover some hockey.
I know. They're so. And Mike Zeisberg, he used to work for them as well.
Yeah, he's NHL.com now.
Right,
Yeah.
but it's so funny because you got these a couple of bombastic guys, and then these guys that are just like the kindest people in the world, and you're just different personalities in every newsroom, right?
I would help Lance Hornby boost his car. Like if I saw him in the parking lot, like he's just so nice.
Oh,
I barely
Yeah.
saw him say anything like when I was covering the Marlies. I'm just like, he's so nice.
Same with Zeisberger. If Mike
Z.
Zeisberger was like, "Yo, I need a place to stay," I've met him 3 times in my life. I'd be like, "I got a spare bedroom. Go ahead." He's just
100%.
he's just a great guy.
And
So
love
anyway,
Scarborough. Love Scarborough
Does
so
he?
much. Oh yeah. When I went to
that Scarborough's where we grew up, by the way, for anybody that doesn't know.
well, and I went to the Black Dog, which is just up the street from where we grew up. So small story here that I've told before. Chris Draper used to always bring the cup there whenever Detroit won. He used to bring it to the Black Dog, but I was too young to just go to a pub by myself, and so I never got the opportunity to go. When the Capitals won it, Devontae Smith-Pelly, who also grew up in that neighborhood, brought it there. And I'm like, oh, I can't miss that opportunity. And so I went, and Zeisberger just happened to be there. And I was like, what are you doing here? Oh, right. And he just cuts me off. He goes, Scarborough. He just loves going home.
Okay, there you go.
Loves it.
That's
Big
so
Z.
wholesome.
Big Z from the Big S.
Big Z from the Big S. So last night's Blue Jackets Leaf game, I mean, couldn't have been a more boring return for Leaf fans and for Blue Jackets fans. Although I guess Blue Jacket fans have got to be used to this, and they're happy to win, I'm sure. But I want to firstly say before we get into the game that this morning I tweeted good morning to everybody except Cam Atkinson. It's a podcast day. Cam Atkinson then liked it. Now, this isn't the first time I've had an NHLer like one of my tweets, but this is by far the funniest. And then I posted it on Instagram, and he responded to it there as well. So Cam Atkinson is in full troll mode, and I'm here for it. I'm okay with it. And he is a Leaf killer.
You were nice to him, Adam. I went hard after I saw it. I added him. I directly added him. And I said, since you're on here, I hope you dunk a cookie in your coffee and it gets soggy quicker than anticipated, so it breaks off into the coffee and you can't find a spoon. It's playoff intensity, damn it.
You know what? We're in full form, man. It's great.
How is he ever going to recover from that? He can't.
Listen,
he's going to be scratched next game.
The reason we're talking about this is because last night's game was so boring that our coverage of it would probably be just as boring. It was bad. Boring, but really good for the Columbus Blue Jackets. They stopped every spot that the Leafs normally go to, that they rely on. You could tell they've been studying, and they made a ghost of Mitch Marner, which is not easy.
Ooh,
Zero shots on goal.
That line was awful. But I tell you what, and I brought this up in my video today, blowing the Leafs up if they lose to Columbus is crazy, right? It's crazy. You can't do that. Making a significant move just because they lost to Columbus is crazy. You can't do that. Was there anything last night you hadn't seen before? Was there anything last night you hadn't seen all season long? Clog up the middle of the ice, force them to go to the corner, and beat their ass. That's what every team knows to do. And all of a sudden, this high-octane offense can't do anything. Eunice Korpisalo, you could have put a cardboard cutout. You could have put a 42-year-old team employee in net, and you would have got the same result. No shots in the last 6 minutes and 12 seconds. You suck.
Korpisalo played amazing. Don't discredit his play.
He did play great.
2 good saves.
No,
he was the Robertson one and the Matthews one, right?
2. Yeah. Yes, 2.
Yeah.
You name them like that, Adam. You name them like that.
Because those are the only things that happened.
Yes,
Nothing
they
happened.
were. You name them like that. Well, I'm not crazy. Okay, maybe a little,
Steve,
but I'm right.
Steve, if you were
can be both.
If you were doing a highlight pack for this game, how long would it be?
5 minutes of me shouting.
Would you?
Oh,
really?
Yeah.
No, like a highlight pack.
And I would snap, and I would only leave in the offsides and icings. No goals or saves, just offsides and icings. We're doing KHL old school.
It was not good. It was not good.
No.
And it's frustrating. And, I was sitting on my couch last night by myself after my daughter went to bed after the first period. Because she, of course, was like, no, I'm staying up for this. It was well past her bedtime, but we watched the first period together, and that put her to sleep, which was, I was thankful for the Blue Jackets to that. But I'm trying to figure out why I cannot remember Toronto dominating anybody. Who do they dominate?
Adam, here's what they would do.
Get a little closer to your mic, by the way.
They would dominate the New Jersey Devils, for example. They would dominate them 6-1 or 5-1. and the final score would be 7-4. And you'd be like, oh, okay. And they'd be up 4-1 on the Montreal Canadiens, and they would lose 6-5, and they would be up and up and up. They dominated the Red Wings once. Get them a friggin' medal for beating a barely East Coast team.
Hey, Montreal couldn't.
Yeah. I heard
Right?
Gord Stellick say. I heard Gord Stellick say an interesting thing on the radio today. He said, if you went to bed last night and didn't see any of the game, then you woke up this morning and somebody said the score was 2-0, you'd know Columbus won. But if somebody said the score was 5-3,
wow,
you would have known the Leafs had won. And it was perfect because that's the hockey game they play. If it was 7-4, the Leafs would have won, and any close game is Columbus. Because if they can't get the ball rolling with the offense, there's nothing there. And
Isn't that it?
That for the last 3 years.
Isn't that it? Like, okay, 5 months off, first game back, unique circumstances. Picked up right where they left off. That's the bad news. Like, they're the same. They're the same not very good hockey team. Let's say it. They're not very good.
Not very good when they're not rolling.
When they're not rolling. They can't. When have they ever been able to defend? They turned it on, I want to say, half a dozen times this season, where they had a really good defensive performance that was matched by an offensive performance.
Just enough to make you think, hey, they could do this.
Yeah. And one of them was a loss. Everyone's like, remember that St. Louis game? I do. They lost. What are you talking about? And it was at home. You're bragging about a home loss? None of these things are symptoms of a champion. Oh, boy. Didn't you miss this?
I love that you're full-blown tear it apart mode already. One game, 2 goals, one of which was on an actual goalie, and you're already upset.
No, and listen, Freddie looked great. Freddie looked great. But reliving the 70-7 series that I did on my channel scarred me because I thought those games were bad the first time I saw them, and then I had some time off. You know, I did that what I do during a pandemic. I watched every single goal by every single player because they have those on a playlist. Shut up! I had time.
It's ridiculous.
I had time. But then I went back and I went through every single game and I went, this team stinks. And then they came back against Columbus, and this is the most frustrating thing. This is what drives my blood pressure through the roof about this team. They could easily win the next 3 games and beat Columbus.
Sure.
Yep.
Right. And that is the thing, you know, but
I want to know what the Leafs are going to do to regroup and lose this in 5.
Well, this is the weird thing about the Leafs. If they win the next 3 games or they lose the next 2, are you going to be surprised?
No,
not at all.
Right. Because they're capable of great success and also horrendous failure. And that is what is so stress inducing. Like, I think there's a lot of people from other teams who cheer for other teams and follow other teams are like, well, yeah, it's stressful following my team too. I don't know.
No,
Nobody in the league loses in a spectacular fashion like the way the Toronto Maple Leafs do. We can talk about the failure of the Edmonton Oilers organization over the last few years and until Ken Holland got there and Dave Tippett got there and Connor McDavid and all the other, we could talk about that. But game to game, no one loses spectacularly like the Leafs do. No one. And has so much talent, right? Like Edmonton, it was sort of a surprise that they did as well as they did this year. Not surprised that Leon and Connor did as well as they did, but that the rest of the team kicked it up too. Great surprise. Nice to see him in the dance. Awesome. With the Leafs, it's like you just do not know what you're going to get. And it will either be a good night. And even if it is a good night, that bad night's just around the corner. It's coming. And that's what I'm trying to figure out, in all honesty. What is the one thing? You know what I mean? Because you look at it as like, well, is it the defense? Is it the forwards not getting back? Is goaltending's okay? What is it? And
they're not good.
But one thing I love that Columbus does, and we are talking about Colorado next. I love the way Columbus forechecks. I love the way the Columbus
works.
Yeah.
In Boston,
it shut
what do
them
you
down.
do when you go to work?
Yeah.
You work.
Boston did
For
the same
crying
thing.
out loud, you know, like anyway.
Boston did the exact same thing with skilled
Boston-
players.
You know, that's an interesting thing. Again, I don't know if you wanted to dedicate much time. Oh my God, did your computer just fall?
No. I'm just slowing my fan down.
Go ahead, Steve.
Or
Sorry,
did your
go ahead.
couch slide back?
No,
Anyway,
I
I don't know if you had like a Boston segment planned out, but I've had a lot of Bruins fans message me like, "What the hell is wrong with the Bruins?"
the Flyers are good, man.
The Flyers are good. Flyers are good. Also, there's been some funky stuff around the Bruins, like Kasha and Pasternak, and I think there was something with Bergeron too. Like
To start phase 2, they had 12 guys missing. Was it not?
Yeah, something's out of sorts with the Boston Bruins. But I've obviously watched a lot of Bruins hockey over the last few years, and what I'm always amazed by is they're not spectacular. They're really not. What about them is truly special? They get very good goaltending.
They do.
Their back end it's good. It's good. Their first line is maybe the best first line in the league, or one of them. Probably it's top 5. They just work really hard, man. They just work really hard. They're not particularly special. And hard work wins almost every time. Almost every time. Columbus or Tampa, who you taking? Well, I know your answer now.
What? Well, I would have been Tampa last year.
I know your answer
We all
now.
took Tampa.
You know
But,
what I
I mean,
mean?
But yeah, 100%. There's a work ethic that these guys have that, and you know, I wonder that with the Leafs, is it there's a timidity that I've seen with this offense for the Leafs that it just feels like they're just waiting for something to happen. Whereas Columbus, they can't make much happen, but if anything does happen, they'll have made it happen. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you know, you do have some offensive weapons there, you know, Bjorkstrand and Wenberg and Atkinson and those guys, but they're not a high powered offense. This is not a major superstar team anymore.
Adam, you were so close to the proper question a few minutes ago. How many times can you remember the Leafs dominating? Almost so close. How many times can you remember the Leafs dictating the play?
Right. Yes.
Dictating the play.
They don't do that.
From puck drop onward, or maybe from the Nick Robertson chance onward. They made John Tortorella look like Jack Adams. And all he did was tell his hockey players to stand in the middle of the ice. And that paralyzed them. There was nothing they could do.
We can't back pass our way through this one. How are we going to do this?
Oh,
I back passed it and he back passed it. We didn't get through. I don't know what happened.
You know what's going to be despicable when the Leafs win 7-1 in game 2 and we talk about because it was the 4:00 game and the ice was better?
I don't think that's going to be.
It's 1,000%.
There is no way that's an excuse.
You want to bet? Well, no, because my scenario involves the Leafs winning. My picks stink. I'm up in one series so far, and it's the Islanders, which I'll throw it away. I don't even want to be right.
Because you took the Rangers over Carolina. Are you nuts?
You took the Rangers. Are you nuts?
No, I didn't.
I know
took the
you
Rangers.
didn't, but I'm angry.
Carolina's amazing. By the way, thank you. We'll get to that series. So yeah, I think, you know, the keys to game 2 here, and we'll wrap this up because there's not much to talk about. It was, you know, a mishandled puck by Freddie that was the difference in the game. You will not win if you do not score. Sheldon Keefe said it. You know, players echoed it. The Leafs have got to get that offense going. What do you do? If a team does crowd the middle, how do you get around that? What do you do? Steven.
You got to beat them in the corners because that's where they're forcing you. And they can't.
But what if you can't?
Because
then you built a shitty team.
When the play got to the corners, it was a guy like Seth Jones who just ran in there and just bodied whoever was there. And Zacharinsky did it all night too. And they're not going to win those battles because they can't outmuscle these guys because those guys work harder.
So there was a puck talks. There was a puck talks years ago, and Elliot Friedman was talking about it. And someone asked him a question about like analytics versus the eye test. And he's like, okay, well, and he talked about the numbers for a little bit, but he goes, there's something about someone who's just been in those situations before calling their shot and then you watch them be right. And it was a Penguins Rangers series years ago. I don't remember who won. I want to say it was one of the teams was down 3-1. I don't remember what it was, but supposedly Adam Oates, when he was an analyst, he was behind the scenes and he said whatever team was, I think it was the Penguins were down 3-1 in the series.
Okay.
He goes, the Penguins, or no, it was the Rangers were down 3-1.
Don't get too caught up in the details. Doesn't matter.
I'm sorry.
Down 3-1 and Adam Oates said what?
What was the weather like?
He goes, the team that is down 3-1 is going to win this series because the puck kept going down, that they kept chipping it in, and they every time hammer the defense, and you could weather that storm in game 1 and in game 2 and in game 3 and in game 5 it starts getting shitty. 6 and the Leafs don't do any of that.
No.
Why not clog up the middle and force the Leafs into the corner? You know you're going to be able to go in there with a carton of eggs and come out without a single one cracked. Kyle Clifford played less than 4 minutes. Like, what's he in there for? Is that role not made for him? Be all right. This is the game you want to play. Here's a little Kyle Clifford for you. Here's a little Frederick. I'm just joking. Here's a little Kyle Clifford for you because there's only one guy on the team that'll do that. That's not true. Zach Hyman. What? Zach Hyman will do that. Kasperi Kapanen will do that. Alexander Kerfoot will do that.
McCabe will do it.
McCabe can do it. Actually, I was surprised to see him he was kind of angry.
Yeah. Well, okay, he was the only guy on the line that I thought was noticeable.
You got to, I know the Leafs want to hold on to the puck. It's starting to get on my nerves how often I'm seeing Kyle Dubas in front of a microphone saying exactly what the Leafs want to do. Oh, we want to hold on to the puck. That seemed exactly like the sort of game where they should have gave it up a little bit and hammered them. And is that not the game to do it in? Game 1. First game. You want to play the Leafs, do you? Nothing. None of that. So what are they going to do? What are they just hope that they what? You can't even, the worst part about that game 1 performance is you can't even look at it and go, next time our shots are going to go in. What shots? What shots other than blue line muffins?
Well, they might say
Justin Hall flying down off the wing and shooting it from this angle.
And the excuse that Austin Matthews doesn't play enough is just thrown out the window. Babcock's not here. Sheldon Keefe ran him out there. Had the second most minutes of any forward. So it's like that's not an excuse anymore. They're getting the guys on the ice that they want on there, and it didn't work.
They had 2 scoring chances, Nick Robertson early and Austin Matthews getting robbed by Korpisalo.
Yeah, that was a hell of a save, man. Wow.
Yeah.
And there was a chance on the power play where if Austin Matthews gets the puck, it's going in. But unfortunately, John Tavares intercepted it. But that's going to happen. So if all 3 of those go in, they get 3. You know what? And okay, maybe you win the game, but we can't confidently say that as Leaf fans because we know that completely changes the structure of the game if the Leafs are playing with the lead, which is a thing they don't know how to do.
Well, and also,
so I don't know what I'm supposed to expect, boys.
Scoring chances. There's a difference between shots and scoring chances, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I know not all scoring chances are created equal, but if that's all you get is those 3, you shouldn't expect to score. You need to have 10. And that's the way it goes, right? Like you're batting 30, you're batting 300 basically on scoring chances in a regular hockey game. You need to have the goalie. The goalie's going to rob a couple. You're going to miss a couple. There's going to be a couple bad passes, and then 2 or 3 are going to go in. You can't have 3.
Korpisalo only missed the All-Star game because he was hurt.
He's a good goalie. There's no question. No, that's clear. I don't think anybody's disputing that. He's a great goalie, but they didn't give him much to work with. He just sort of got, he did have an incredible glove save, great toe save on Robertson as well. But
I missed
that's
one.
A normal NHL game for a normal NHL goalie.
I missed one. Kapanen passing it on the breakaway.
Oh
yeah.
Because he thought he was going to get caught. I'm like, you're Kapanen.
Yeah. What did he hear? Did he hear last podcast? Were we too nice? For crying out loud. Jesse, were you going to say something there?
I was going to say it was 4 rush chances and 11 shots in the slot. That's all they generated last night.
It's not enough.
That's not good. That's not going to win you an NHL game.
That's almost as bad as the coffee I'm drinking. which is the coffee I made.
Why is it bad? Why is it bad?
Because
Did you put too much water?
I hate dark coffee, like dark roast.
Always get medium.
Really?
Well, I know. And then my parents were being nice and they dropped off a dark roast tin. That's like a big dark roast tin. And I didn't want to say anything. And now I feel like I got to finish it because I don't want to waste it. So I'm almost through it, but it has been 2 months of hell. It's been
dark roast
gross.
But
it's not even good dark roast, right? It's the cheap shit. So it's like,
I don't know when this dark roast fad, because I drink coffee for the caffeine. Can you tell? And dark roast is light caffeine.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And heavy on the taste like the bottom of a boot. I don't understand. I don't get it. I don't get it with the dark roast. I don't get it at all. So I'm going back to my blonde roast and I want to be fired up.
Do you want
but
something
anyway.
that tastes like liquefied beets? Try dark roast.
Honestly, do you want boil a shoe? And that's what dark roast tastes like. Honestly,
Dark roast is good when you're if you're a coffee mixer. Like if you do like 3 milks, 4 sugars, then you do the dark roast, so you get the actual taste of the coffee.
Oh, like a milkshake.
in all of your milkness.
No, that's me in university.
Yeah.
Like 3 double doubles a day. Why am I fat?
Well, listen, I mean, it was a boring game. And I hate to say that I called it, but I called it. The Leafs did not score. And I did call that last episode. And a bunch of people were mad at me for it. And they're like, you jinxed it. I'm like, actually, no, I didn't jinx it. This time I called it and I was right. And that's rare. And shit. Why did I tell? Anyway, guys, I'm very excited because we get to bring on our new partner on the show. Now we have had several partners in the years past, but this one we're particularly excited about. Jesse.
Yes.
Could you introduce Tony to the show, please?
I can't.
Who's that?
Celebrate with Frosted Flakes.
Oh, is
Guys?
that our new partner, Tony the Tiger, Adam?
That is correct. We want to welcome Frosted Flakes to the show. We're going to be talking about Sellies that we love. I can't believe it's Tony the Tiger. Oh my God. But this is
so strange about our personal friend, Tony the Tiger?
I know.
Joining the Steve Dangle podcast.
We've talked about it for years with Tony when we've been out for milk with Tony. We go out and we crush pints of milk. But, the thing is, we never actually got to put it together. And so we're so happy to bring Frosted Flakes, Tony the Tiger on board. And what we're going to be doing every Sunday, Monday episode. So the first episode of every week, we're going to be talking about our favorite Selly from the last week. So this is the last couple days in this case, because hockey just came back. But also we're going to dive back into the annals. And Steve, every second show of the week, is going to bring you his favorite Selly from a different era of hockey. So this is
different what?
I'm sorry, it's a different era of hockey. And so we're really excited to bring them on. Please welcome Tony the Tiger and Frosted Flakes to the show. Please feel free to tweet at them. We're so excited to have them here. Now, Steve, let's start with what we know is going to be the celebration last night. This is a former Leaf who had a bad reputation with the Leafs in the playoffs. Broke our hearts because we loved this man. This man was our man. He was our man. He was born and raised just south of here. London Knight. 8th overall pick, if I'm not incorrect. 9th overall pick. I'm definitely incorrect.
7th.
Okay.
Sorry.
He's somewhere. He's within a range of that.
Top 10.
Top 10. That's right. And he was the third line center for the Toronto Maple Leafs last year. Oh, sorry. What was that? Go ahead, Jesse.
Celebrate with Frosted Flakes.
That's a great point, Tony.
Thank you, Tony.
That's a great point.
So last night's celebration of the night, the Selly of the night, Nazem Kadri of the Colorado Avalanche, which makes me sad.
And an assist to Nathan McKinnon. Did you see him skipping?
Yeah, that was great. That was
skipping
amazing.
because he was just so gosh darn. Oh, they're going to win the cup.
So let's break down this. Let's break this down because this is important. Okay, so it is the Colorado Avalanche who had a pretty good start to last year's playoffs, but kind of fizzled out.
Mm-hmm.
They made the Flames look silly, but then could not get over the next round. They're in tough against the defending Stanley Cup champions, who are mostly intact. Like there's been no major subtractions from the St. Louis Blues. Jordan Binnington is still Jordan Binnington. You've still got Pietrangelo. You've still got three pretty tough centers that you're going to face, and Carl Gunnarsson. Let's not forget about him. Who is
and they were a
still
top five team
hockey.
without Tarasenko almost all year.
Right. This is a tough, complete team. St. Louis, another one of those complete teams. Now, they will have probably some major subtractions. This is the last run, I think, of this iteration of the St. Louis Blues. You're going to have at least one big name leave in the offseason, right? Petrangelo's contract's up. If you want to keep him, you're going to have to move someone else. If you don't want to keep him, he's going to move. That's a major thing. So this is big for them. And the Colorado Avalanche have a guy named Nazem Kadri.
Just a guy.
There's
who's
mere
not suspended.
seconds. What's that, Jess?
Who's not suspended?
Who's not suspended. There are mere seconds on the clock, guys. Puck hits off of Jordan Binnington. Now, usually, what do we like to talk about with goalies? Something they always used to bring up.
Goalies.
When you shoot the puck at the goalie, what do you want the goalie to do? You want them to control the
rebound.
Correct. Jordan Binnington did not do the greatest rebound control. In fact, the rebound went out the other side and directly onto Nazem's stick. Obviously, it goes in the net with a 1/10 of a second to go. And they had to check this. They did the replay check and everything. Boom. Goal.
I love the desperation that hockey fans have for their team to win, because producer Drew tweeted something that was technically true, but it's still one of the craziest things I've ever heard a fan argue. He goes, there is time between 0.1 seconds and 0.0 seconds. And the devil of it, he's right.
He's right.
He's right.
Kind of.
It is a measurement of a block of time. Yes.
The devil of it. And whatever that time is, that's when Nazem Kadri scored this goal.
Mm-hmm.
And it was pure joy, pure elation. You could see, even through his mouth guard, someone on his team clearly went, did you get it? And he goes, I did. I think I did. And Nathan MacKinnon just skipping down. Oh, are they having fun or what?
Oh, I think they're having a good time. And Nathan MacKinnon was probably like, it didn't have to be me.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow. Another guy. That's wild. I had forgotten. Oh.
Yeah. It's so it was an amazing one. And that is our first ever Selly of the week. Now, feel free to send it to us. You can tag Steve, myself, and Jesse, your favorite Sellies as they happen over the course of this week. We're going to do it again next Sunday when we have our next show. Well, not our next show. It's 2 shows from now. But pay attention this week. Send us your Sellies of the week. Send them in gift form if you can, or just the highlight itself. And make sure you tag Frosted Flakes in that as well. And we would like to thank once again Tony for joining the team.
Steve's great.
The feeling is mutual, personal friend Tony the Tiger. The feeling is mutual.
Steve's
Thanks,
great.
Tony. You're great. No, you're great. Love you, Tony.
Calgary and Winnipeg. Lots been made of the game, but very little of the actual game. One event. And Calgary and Winnipeg are playing right now, by the way. Winnipeg is up 1-0 as of this recording. Mm-hmm. But the Tkachuk-Scheifele hit. Everybody is asking, was it dirty? Was it planned? Guys, want to get your thoughts.
One Brad, a.k.a. Chunky, who is a member of the Dangle Navy and noted Jets fan, he said he had a very level-headed take on it, considering he's a Jets fan. And he basically said it's not dirty per se, but Matthew Tkachuk is exactly the type of player to try to get every piece of a hit. So
okay, wow.
While he may not have intentionally, now this is me extrapolating, he may not have intentionally tried to injure Mark Scheifele, but he did try to get a piece of him. It's like sometimes when you see a guy stick out the elbow or stick out the knee,
You're just trying to catch him. Just trying to catch him. You're trying to get a piece of him. And Matthew Tkachuk wants to get every piece of him. Now, him and Mark Scheifele are supposedly friends. They are supposedly training partners. With Gary Roberts?
But by the way, that doesn't exonerate you, and it doesn't mean in the heat of the moment you're not going to try to lay a hit. I remember, do you guys remember years ago, I want to say it was James Wisniewski hit Brent Seabrook in the corner. Seabrook was all kinds of messed up. And one was supposed to be in the other's wedding party, like that upcoming summer. And there were hurt feelings. I can't remember who was who, but they were like, you know what? I got to reconsider. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
There were hurt feelings.
Oh, I don't remember that. Wow.
There were hurt feelings. So, and I haven't seen Mark Scheifele say anything.
No, he hasn't. He has apparently been spotted in a boot, and I doubt, and that's not Canadian for about. It's actually he was in a boot.
Right.
But I'm curious. I'm curious about whether or not there's any sort of retribution for this. What is the best retribution? Because sometimes, I mean, I know Blake Wheeler fought, and then and that's a fight you want to win, and he didn't. But is the best revenge in this success?
Well, obviously.
Or do you go after him the rest of the series?
Yeah, winning the series is the ultimate winning the fight, right? But I think the most interesting part of this is how upset Paul Maurice is. Like, he's been livid in press conferences about this. And like he said, you can see that it's dirty on the blue line camera, which no one has access to. So it's kind of plausible deniability, you know? It's just you can't prove whether he's right or wrong because we can't see it. So he keeps saying it's really dirty. But
why don't we, by the way? Why don't we have access to that?
I don't know.
Does it matter?
It's a league cam, right?
Okay.
Only they have it. So I don't know if that leads to his players being calmer because he's taking the brunt of the heat for all of this. Like, he's standing up in public so that they don't have to do it on the ice, which is kind of like the Tortorella tactic of doing things with the media for your team. So I think there won't be anything really on the ice, and they'll kind of focus on just playing hockey because he's been so mad about it openly.
Well, and it forced Jeff Ward to address it, which he very obviously didn't want to. And it's never poor Matthew Tkachuk. Are you going to feel better if your coach sticks up for you, but he has to, at the beginning of it, go, I feel the need to stick up for my player? That's not like a impassioned endorsement of your guy. That's going, listen, I got to do this, so here it is.
I think it's because he thinks it's
my
stupid.
guy.
I think it's because he thinks the whole event is stupid. Performative, to use a word from last show, right?
Ooh. Oh,
you know, I do think there's a bit of performance art going on with Paul Maurice here.
Yes.
I think Paul Maurice is just pissed that he's lost Mark Scheifele, which is completely understandable. I have a hard time believing that Tkachuk is trying to take Mark Scheifele out of the series that way. If this was Matt Cook, I'd be like, yep, for sure, suspend him, get him out of the game. I get it.
You and I talked about this on the phone. Like, how many true nut jobs who are trying to hurt you are in the NHL
anymore? Not many.
Even back in the day. Well, back in the day, there were definitely more. But even like, I don't know, when we started the show, let's say 2013, and you asked me, you're like, do you think Brad Marchand is one of those guys? No, I don't. No, I don't. I really don't like him. He's a pest. He's a rat. He's not a nut. He's not a total nut. No one's trying to step on your Achilles.
Unless you're Matt Cook.
Well, Adam, I have
video proof.
I have a hockey team you can work for.
Well, allegedly, and also the video. Listen, nobody really thinks. I mean, I can't see how anybody would think that would be intentional. But I do agree. Like, the guy plays it with an edge, and it was funny to hear Brian Burke talk about it because every time the
Adam's gone.
He's talking about the fact that he's like,
Adam, we lost you for like.
Oh, do you lose me?
10,
am I here
10
now?
seconds.
You're back.
You're here now.
Okay. So did you get the Brian Burke part? Did I say that? Okay.
No.
So I found it. I was watching Brian Burke last night, and with Brian Burke, when he talks about the Leafs, he's going to be upset. The Canucks, he's going to talk about the Sedins, and Calgary, he's going to talk about the great young players that they have who put that team together. Me. And I love Brian, and I say that I tweeted about that last night. Right, Brian's got. I think he's one of the best entertaining faces we have in hockey. Thank God for Brian Burke. So he was talking about last night that he thought Paul Maurice was way out of line, which is a tack that you could probably, that's plausible. I can understand why he's taking that. And I think he's probably right. But he also then goes on to say, Tkachuk is not that type of guy. He just crosses the line. And thank God we have guys that cross the line.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was sort of like, no, he would never do anything wrong, except for when he does. And thank God for that. You know what I mean?
That's why I love having a podcast. Like, can you imagine me with someone going, Steve, you have 10 seconds. Get your concise point across. He said 3 different things in that sentence.
Yes.
All of which deserved explanation, and there was time for none of it.
Well, and
live TV is really hard.
I want them to have. Why do they not? It's a bad example, but one of the things that made Don Cherry and Ron McLean magic for years was that Ron used to challenge Don and go, Don, that doesn't make any sense, or you just contradicted yourself, or that's complete and utter nonsense. And people really liked that.
Yeah, you can't.
Why is
it's
no
not
one
a bad
on
example,
TV?
Adam.
I would love to see Brian Burke go toe to toe with anybody, and just have it's like what Shaq and Charles Barkley do. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like because he's a fun guy. He's willing to listen to other people, but he's also got his opinions. And I was surprised that nobody said, Brian, you said a couple different things. Do you want to clarify that? And I know that timing's an issue, but give Burke more face time and let somebody go, hey, Brian, just want to check in with that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, most of the Canadian studio shows are set up so that there isn't time to talk. You know, and most of these pregame and postgame and in between game, it's just we have a certain thing. The producer's moving on to the next topic within this amount of seconds, really.
Right.
And there's no room to just discuss. And
I want some debate.
The magic of the TNT show is that they let them go off wherever they want. They treat it as if it's just an open segment here, a podcast. Yeah. And it's just, hey, Ernie's going to say something. And if you guys want to riff on it, we have a couple minutes here where you can give Shaq a little ribbing. Charles will say something stupid and everybody will criticize him for it. And that's what makes it so much fun. And most studio shows aren't set up like that. They're set up so you get your point in 10 seconds and you're out.
Charles Barkley will make a joke and Shaq will ask him to repeat it. God, I watched 2 things all summer. It was Red Dead Redemption videos and NBA on TNT, Shaq and Charles Barkley. I love it. I love it.
So
it's
good.
So funny.
They are magic. They're magic. Like they're that's a special. If you want to see great sports programming, like obviously, you know, we riff on Max Kellerman and Stephen A. Smith and Skip and Shannon. Those are very good shows, but there's a joy that comes from watching Shaq and Charles Barkley. It's joy. They debate each other, they burn each other, they piss each other off, but they're also like, there's a camaraderie there. It's a great show.
And they make fun of boring games. They don't try to play them up.
Yeah.
Charles Barkley, last time I went to New York, I left 2 Knicks tickets at the front desk, and when I came back, there were 4. I love him.
My favorite.
No one wants to watch them.
One of my favorite
really
moments
good.
was him trying to pronounce Jonas Valanciunas years ago. It was so Jonas Valanciunas. It was
He
perfect.
forgot. They did a segment on him forgetting how many times he's been arrested. It was so great. Chuck, how many times have you been arrested? 4. I think 4. And he had the answer. It's 6, Chuck. You've been arrested 6 times.
That's funny.
Jesus.
Very
man.
funny. Very, very funny. So anyway, you can understand why Brian Burke would take that tag. I think, it's fair to say Tkachuk crosses the line. He is a cross the line player, and he is an X factor in this series. And that's what Steve and we were talking yesterday about that game off the air. You know, one of the things that's abundantly clear already is that he's an X factor. That play, intentional or not, and I don't believe it was intentional. I think most, if you're rationally minded about it, you don't believe that he's going to go, knives out at a guy. He's an X factor. He's already made a dent, and they've already won because of it. Let's be honest. The Winnipeg Jets looked deflated after that happened, and who wouldn't be? Yeah. And then you have Patrick Laine, who is hit by, I believe, Mark Giordano, and then there's some slashing and whatever, and then he goes off with a hand injury, which is not good if your whole thing is shooting. Now, I don't know if he's playing today, but he left and was like, his hand is sore. Now everybody gets sore in the playoffs, but it's the first game. Tough one for Winnipeg, and as of right now, it looks like they are still up. So it looks like it's a much, much better game. They're out shooting. Well, no, Calgary's actually out shooting them. So it's 9-10 the shots, and the first period is just ending. So could be a completely different game by the end of it, but that's where they're at. Let's move on to Edmonton and Chicago, which is a surprising Chicago outburst. In one period, they scored as many goals as I predicted they'd score all series. But I got to be honest with you.
Kubalik.
I know, we'll get to him. I was making that prediction based on the fact that I thought Edmonton would make an intelligent choice with their goaltender.
Dude,
they decided to go.
What is so hard? What is so hard about playing your best goalie?
I don't understand it.
And
I think it's part of it was I think that they thought, and Dave Tippett probably looked at this and said Mike Smith was dynamite for Calgary in the playoffs last year, despite the outcome.
So what?
Right? Steve, I 100% agree with you. But Mike Smith is either an 880 goalie or a 945 goalie.
There's no in between.
Zero in between. It's been like that his entire career. I mean, when the Coyotes rode him to the Western Conference Final in like 2013, it's pretty special. That's when he was on one of those heaters. And he obviously, if the Flames could have scored some goals last year against Colorado, would have had probably a pretty good playoff. But the fact I'm basing my prediction off of you starting the correct goaltender, which is clearly Mikko Koskinen. How does Mike Smith even draw in for the rest of the series? There's no way, right?
Until Koskinen has his first bad game, and then they go, well, there's Mike Smith, who's always been good in the playoffs, even though he hasn't done it since there was last year. Last year was the first time since 2012.
And what does that tell you? He's been a starter pretty much everywhere.
I don't know. It's John Chapin and how he built the Coyotes or something.
Right, yeah.
I don't know,
like that.
man. I don't know. You know who has 2 Stanley Cups and should also not be starting right now is Matt Murray. Is Tristan Jarry hurt? Did I miss something?
No, we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about Edmonton right now.
Well, damn it. What is the okay, so what so I talked about no, you're right. Yeah, I talked about skill versus structure.
Yes.
Oilers have 2 guys for sure who we know have unbeatable Joker in a game of president skill.
Yes.
Unbeatable. But I think what really helped them this year, besides a little bit of depth, Ethan Bear coming up and Kailer Yamamoto and stuff like that, they started to play better as a team. And part of that is obviously skill throughout your lineup and depth and everything, but they played much better structurally and they got a few saves, and those saves might have been because of that. Boy, did they miss the structure. It wasn't there. And one thing I don't know if we gave the Chicago Blackhawks enough credit for is they've been together for a very long time.
Mm-hmm. And they've done this before.
They didn't even need a training camp. I think they could have looked the exact same. You know what I mean? I also thought they were going to stink because I was under the impression Corey Crawford wasn't going to play. So that
they're not. Listen,
that was a weird little wrinkle.
Let's be honest though. Like McDavid scores that first goal, you're instantly thinking, "Oh, see, here we go."
Yeah, we thought it was over at that point.
Because the Blackhawks are not a good team.
They're not great.
And if anybody wants to disagree, if 24th best in the league is good enough for you, then your standards in Chicago have fallen dramatically since 2016, right? Wow. If 24th is good for you, if you think that's good, it's not. But if you think it is good, then your standards have fallen dramatically. This is not a good hockey team. Kubalik's good. Tays had a great game. You've always got Patrick Kane. Duncan Keith looks like he's healthy and good.
Making a comeback?
Yeah, sure. For sure. But don't tell me that this isn't still Edmonton's series to win, which I believe it is. I am absolutely perplexed, blown away that Mike Smith saw ice in this series at all. And the fact that you saw the goal, the first, was it Sportsnet, I think, tweeted it at you, Steve, where it's like, is this the first dang of the season with Mike Smith handling the puck?
The amazing puck handler, practically Marty Brodeur, Marty Turco, Mike Smith. Stay in your net. Stay in your net.
Did he get pulled?
I don't remember.
Can't even remember. But
I think he did.
After the first period, should have been gone. Should have been gone.
100% been gone. Might have even won the game.
Yeah.
Might have even come back and won the game.
There's not much Connor McDavid's non-charismatic personality can do about that. Really. And I think we need to acknowledge the fact that I still fully believe in Edmonton in this series. I think they're a team that should absolutely win this series.
They should.
Mikko Koskinen's got to be in net.
They should win. Yes. No, if Koskinen's in net, listen, it's not mind-blowing to me that Chicago won a game. It's mind-blowing to me that they kicked Edmonton's ass.
Yep.
And Mike Smith is the most confusing. If you had to explain hockey to someone who had never seen it before, an alien life form, he'd be amongst the hardest players in the league to explain. Mike Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Is this player good? It's a loaded question there, Mr. Alien. Is he good? Well, what day is it? Did it rain? Like, there's no way of predicting Mike Smith going on a heater or becoming a bum. But like you said, Adam, he's 920 and up or 890 and down. He is such a weird goalie. Goalie. There's no 905 Mike Smith.
I was at IKEA with Jesse during that game. And I looked at Jesse and I thought that the app had the wrong score. I was like, there's no like this. Because after the first period, it was like 3-1. I'm like, no. And I showed Jesse, he was like, ooh. And Jesse's girlfriend, Gabby, was like, oh, that's great. I love hockey so much. And we're like, okay. Sorry.
She was making fun of us.
She was. Because we don't stop.
Hey, Adam, you want to be mad?
Sure.
You know what I just found out? So, you know how Dominik Kubalik is nominated for the Calder?
Sure.
And you know how you're mad about it because he's 24?
I'm not mad. Jesse's mad. I don't care. I think it's fine.
That would be Jesse, who is a little upset.
So you know how 24 is the oldest you can be?
Mm-hmm.
So if he were to win it, which he won't, but if he were to win it, his birthday is August 21st. So if he wins it, he'll be 25 when he wins it.
Nice.
So he could be past the age that he's eligible to win the Calder and win the Calder.
Yes.
That's stupid.
I mean, he's not going to. Also, I'm getting angry at every pro scout in the world right now because this dude was a 7th-round pick of the Kings in 2013, played 4 years in the Czech League, 2 years in the Swiss League. What? How did this guy slip through the cracks?
I know.
30 goals in 68 games.
I know. I will never forget Kubalik's name again. Respect where it is due. Right. Amazing.
Well, he tore the Leafs up in one of the games, and I was just like, oh, well, rookie had a great game. And then I kept hearing his name. Kubalik scored. And I looked at his numbers. I went, who is this? They got Panarin again? Frick, go away. The Blackhawks, man. Stop. Go away.
They'll trade him for Brandon Saad in a couple of years. Don't worry.
Oh, I can't wait.
Who I think scored, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
I still feel bad. I always go with Brandon Saad. I should really go with Stan Bowman. It's not Brandon Saad's fault.
It was a bad trade, Adam.
He's just a good guy with a just not the guy that you trade for Panarin.
Don't you dare apologize. That was a bad trade.
The Twitter mentions did not let us have an easy Saturday and Sunday because our picks were very wrong, and people let us know.
Listen.
Ooh, Adam, 7 minutes ago.
Mine were pretty good. So I just want to say I actually did pretty good. What happened 7 minutes ago?
Reporter Chris, the only change in the Leafs practice lines today is Pierre Engvall between Kyle Clifford and Jason Spezza. Between. So he's centering that line. Goat out.
Good, because no offense. Goat seems like a great guy, good personality to have.
He didn't do anything.
He's a good person. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't do anything.
Frederic Gauthier is 6'3" or 6'4", which matters to some people.
No, he's 6'4" every time he falls down.
No, then he's not 6'4" anymore.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Then he's like 4'8" or something.
And
I don't know how long his legs are.
Adorable puppy character guy, love it, but not like, what do you do here?
He can play on my team. You just got to do stuff.
Yeah, 100%. His skating's much better than it used to be. I'm not calling his character into question. Just what's the role? What are you here for? Let's move into the next one. Montreal, big win against the Pens. And they are playing again a little bit later today. So when you hear this, it might be a little bit out of date. But I thought the funniest thing from this game was the fact was we were talking about Jonathan Drouin last show and how he can be completely invisible or he can be an absolute all-star. And, the Leafs, we're Leaf fans. We know all about that. And that penalty shot in overtime where he lost control, that, I sat back and I laughed, but I hurt for him. Do you know what I'm saying? It's sort of like,
I mean, unless you genuinely don't like the guy. When Brad Marchand duffed that shootout thing against Philly, that was very funny.
Love it.
Jonathan Drouin, I don't hate him. He's not
he's a nice guy.
Wild.
Cool flow.
Yeah. Yeah. But how do you feel if you're Pittsburgh, though? Because obviously you put Matt Murray in net for game 2. So you've convinced yourself that's not the problem. Philip Deneau, we talked about as an X factor. He had 3 penalties. So you weren't beaten by him. You have Crosby and Malkin. You're going up against a rookie in Nick Suzuki. He scores one of the goals. How are you feeling? If you're the Pittsburgh Penguins, you get that chill up your spine, the Carey Price chill up your spine.
Well, and you mentioned it earlier, Matt Murray. Now, this game went into overtime. Jeff Petrie with the winner.
It's not like he had a bad game.
Jeff Petrie all of a sudden has the best shot in hockey.
I know.
So that's a thing.
Shea Weber's there, but here comes Jeff Petrie with his big shot. But what I gotta ask, what?
Here's Jeff Petrie.
Man, Oilers fans must just chafe. I remember that trading Jeff Petrie for a second and a fifth because he's not really in the long-term plans, and he has been so great ever since. Solid on an organization that frankly has been up and down. When you look at Matt Murray's play, which wasn't bad, does it inspire confidence? More than Tristan Jarry.
Carey Price should be able to outplay your goalie if you're the Pittsburgh Penguins and you still win. And they didn't. They're a little bit like the Bruins in that they should be scarier than they are. And you watch them play and you're like, so what's going on there?
Now, is that the hockey gods paying the Pens back for not knowing who the Montreal Canadiens top line was?
Which could be
a good piece of audio, by the way.
I bet they listened to it several times. But
I have a question for the two of you.
Okay.
I have a question. So what do you make of the Pittsburgh Penguins being 0-7 in their last 7 playoff games?
What? No.
Sorry, what?
They lost to Montreal. They got swept their previous playoffs.
By the Islanders.
By the Islanders. And then they lost. That would be how many? That's 5 games. And they lost the previous 2, the playoffs before.
To Washington.
So they're 0-7 in their last 7 playoff games. Do you guys take anything away from that stat?
Might be time to do something different.
Well, that's all the Penguins do is fidget with their lineup. Well, what were they getting before that, Jesse? They were getting unbelievable, rookie of the year Conn Smythe goaltending. Yeah. I'd love to know. How much they got lit up in those games. Ugh.
And Matt Murray hasn't been.
That is a hell of a stat.
Since that Washington series, Matt Murray's been very, very good, but he hasn't been what he was when they were on those back.
He was astounding.
Yeah,
he was he looked like he was going to be like a perennial all-star.
Yes,
for the next 2 decades.
He could still be. I just think that there for whatever reason the play hasn't been to that level.
His age now is when most goalies make it. You know what I mean? Like when they just start to break in, and that guy's got 2 cups, and they're a few years in the rear view. So he's a very interesting guy. I'd like to see the Pens just go to Jarry full time and cut ties there. Which who knows if they go down 0-2, that's probably the plan. Because I think he could have a great start somewhere else.
Yeah, I think we were talking about that. Tristan Jarry is a lot cheaper to keep than Matt Murray is, and everybody's going to have cap problems. And there are going to be plenty of teams that want a piece of Matt Murray. And the Penguins probably could get good value back for him. So that to me is a sort of a no-brainer. But do you have confidence in Tristan Jarry? And I think right now would be the time to find out. Because you don't want to go into next year, do you, with not knowing if Tristan Jarry is the guy and only having Tristan Jarry?
Yeah, no,
I mean, Matt Murray didn't play himself out of the net last night too, so that's going to be tough for Pittsburgh. We'll see what they do. We're moving on to the Canes and Rangers, and I would like to thank Carolina for doing exactly what they should have done, which is dominate the Rangers. And they've now, I believe, they're up now 2-0 in the series.
they sure are, Adam Wild.
Jacob Slavin scored like right off the bat because he should have been the Norris Trophy winner this year. Fight me on that. Just like Connor Hellebuck should have been the MVP this year. Fight me on that too. That is, I mean, to me, Carolina they've been building these pieces for years and years and years. And if you go back to our prediction shows, all the way through, we're all like, well, Carolina, they got more pieces. And every year they add something. And this year it was Vinny Trocheck, which I forgot about at the trade deadline. They've still got Jake Gardiner was the second best Leaf defenseman for years. He's like, I think 5 or 6 in Carolina.
Yeah.
He's not,
you know what I mean? He's like a non-mentionable.
6. 6 is a little disrespectful.
Oh, I know. He hasn't had the greatest year. But also, it speaks to the depth they have, right? They are a complete team.
With the Blue Jackets, we kept going, and they're getting healthy because of all this time off. And we completely overlooked how the Hurricanes bought like mad at the deadline to compensate for the fact that they were injured. And then they get those guys back and they have their playoff additions. That's a roster, man. It's a roster. If momentum was still a thing, the Rangers would look better in this series. I was still using my March brain, going, they might ride a little bit of that. What? A little bit of that what? It's August. It's gone, and the Hurricanes are legit.
They sure are.
I answered my own question. Steve, who do you think could win the series? Well, I think the Rangers could win it, but they're not going to do much. But if Carolina wins it, they could go all the way. That means Carolina, Steve. Why'd you say the Rangers?
So Carolina did win 4-1 today.
Ooh.
Just throwing that out there. They're up 2-1.
Very good.
Or 2-0.
Very good hockey team.
Very, very good hockey team. They're going to be fun to watch. Also, I want to throw this out there. I'm trying to figure just with the Rangers for a second. The Rangers have 3 goalies. We mentioned that, right? Georgiev, the other guy, and Henrik Lundqvist.
Yeah.
Forget the other guy's name.
Shesterkin.
That's it. All guys that conceivably could be starters on certain teams. Maybe even Carolina. Because if you were to say there was a weakness in Carolina's... Oh, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Mm-hmm. If you were to say there was a weakness in Carolina's lineup, you could say, as Jesse pointed out, Peter Mrazek?
Go fart
That's
in your
your
hat.
goalie?
Fart in your hat.
Right. And unless this might just be the Rangers tipping the cap to Henrik Lundqvist. He's not, of those 3, is he the best goalie? That's another questionable choice. He's now started 2 games in a row. And part of me is wondering if it's like, okay, start him because he's got 1 year left. If we make the playoffs next year, he's not starting. And it's a play-in round, and this season's it's just fun money anyway. He hasn't been good. Guys, what was the score of game 1? Do you remember?
No.
Okay.
3-1?
Okay, so if it was 3-1, Henrik Lundqvist has let in 7 goals in 2 games.
Yeah, but it's the tale as old as time with Henrik Lundqvist not getting enough help. So far, okay, in the one game, Adam, he posted a 919 in his last playoffs in 2017. Granted, it was 2017. He was a 927. He had a bad year in 2016 with an 867. Good Lord. But then before that, 928, 927, 934, 931, 917. Even, listen, you play your best goalie. That's the end of it. However, I think it was pretty telling how many Bruins fans, how many Rangers fans saw that Shesterkin was rumored to be the game 1 starter. And even they were like, Henrik loses it just like that, eh? Really? After all that? Listen, let's not confuse Mike Smith and Henrik Lundqvist.
I'm not saying that. I'm not putting them in that category.
I know.
Okay.
I'm just talking to people. Just talking. let's not confuse the two who both have good playoff numbers. One guy's been in the playoffs basically every year. The other's Mike Smith. And Henrik Lundqvist has been the messed up thing is Henrik Lundqvist, you could argue, has been the best playoff goalie over the past 15 years.
Just hasn't won.
Hasn't won a cup. Almost did. Damn near almost. It's gonna at least Luongo went quietly into the night because the Panthers couldn't be arsed to surround him with a good team. If Lundqvist doesn't win it, it's going to be torturous because he has been legitimately spectacular over his career. And if the Rangers lose, I just don't think it's going to be because of him.
Yeah, and let's also not forget that Shesterkin on Saturday was unfit to play. He was out for injury, and Georgiev was the backup, and it was just Lundqvist as a starter. So I don't know if today he was also unfit to play, because I know he was at practice and then didn't get the start. But that's why Lundqvist started on Saturday at least.
Shesterkin was interesting because he was involved in an accident.
Mm-hmm.
He was. And that sort of, I mean, he obviously missed time with an injury, but like that messed up his. Wasn't he sort of in and out of the lineup after that?
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
It seems
From
like,
what I
it
remember,
seems like it's still.
I don't want to guess. Yeah, I know. It was all haze. I don't want to guess or anything like that. I want to say, you know why I remember it so vividly? I want to say that was announced on the day of the trade deadline. Because I remember being in the CBC studios. It was in the morning. And we're just sort of like, well, isn't this a bit of an X factor in everything? And then obviously they didn't play very many games.
Right. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see if they start him in the next game. I have a feeling they don't, but let's move on to the series that nobody cares about, including fans of the teams, because Islanders fans know they're going to win this series and Panthers don't have any fans. So I think it's going to be pretty tough for anybody to pay much attention to this, but I thought it was interesting. And this is just me.
Washed.
Wow. Wow, man. Wow, Bobrovsky. But let's talk about Andy Greene. Andy Greene, 37 years old, traded from the New Jersey Devils to the Islanders at the trade deadline. Lou Lamoriello, as he often does, traded a second-round draft pick for Andy Greene, who he had in New Jersey because he hates them.
Hates second-rounders. Can't stand them.
And
are you over 35?
Second rounder. Andy Greene got himself a healthy scratch for game one. That's not good, right?
No.
Now, Johnny Boychuk got just a brutal hit to the head from Matheson, and he may not draw in for game two. We will see. Not playing it yet. But it is not a good look, and I wondered about that's the only thing of interest that I could find. We know the Islanders should win this series. They should win this series, no problem. The only
story to come out of that series would be if they lost it.
Yeah, 100%. Or and like if Bobrovsky was all of a sudden back to him, and I would expect, because Bobrovsky, we've talked about this before. This is his pattern: bad year, good year, bad year, good year, bad year, good year. Right?
Mm-hmm. We talked about
next year. He's going to be phenomenal. He's going to be spectacular. We're going to be like, why did we ever doubt Sergei Bobrovsky? He's won Vezina twice.
The Russian Pecorine,
who we also need to talk about later on.
Who all three of them have Mike Smith syndrome, but like to the extreme. We were talking about the Blackhawks and man, the Montreal Canadiens look bad in their warm-up game. We were talking about the worst team remaining. It's the Panthers.
It's clearly the Panthers.
They were awful.
Yeah.
In March, and then they sold, and now here they are in the playoffs despite selling. There should have been a rule. Did you sell at the deadline? All right, you're out.
And lastly,
Buffalo should be in. They bought.
They did.
They bought
Wayne Simmons.
They did. They should be in. Montreal out. You traded Kovalchuk away. Sabres got Wayne Simmons. Sabres are in. You're out.
If Buffalo was in, would they be legally required to still retain their old GM, who they've since fired?
Yes.
Who they were totally competent in March.
And they get Connor Sherry back for their series against Pittsburgh.
And they get John Chayka just for fun.
Yeah.
And they
He
get
gets to
John
go
Chayka.
over there.
And John Chayka and hurt feelings and a second rounder. That's how it works.
I'm excited for hurt feelings. Nashville and Arizona. Oliver Ekman-Larsson kicked it off with a. You got to feel for Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who is a perennial Norris candidate, who hasn't seen the playoffs in 8 years, and he hit that 5-player trick shot, and it sort of arced its way past UC Saros, and that kicked off the game. Great start for the Coyotes, which was cool. But if you're, up until this game, Pekka Rinne had started 89 straight playoff games. 89, which is an enormous number. That's amazing. That speaks to the success of the Nashville Predators franchise to keep perennially winning. If the Leafs had played half of that in the last 10 years, it would be amazing. I would be thrilled. So he didn't get in. Pekka Rinne didn't get in. Do you put Pekka Rinne in after this game? It was 4-1 at one point. Then the Nashville Predators started to come back. Do you stick with UC Saros, or do you go with the guy that brought you to Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Finals just a few years ago?
I say Rinne, because you got to pull out all the stops. You know how we talked about, are the Leafs going to have to make significant changes if they lose? Nashville has to. For God's sake. You made it to the Cup final, and you very clearly never made it close after that. You're not close to that team. The Nashville Predators, it would appear, are nowhere near winning a Stanley Cup. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You got to make significant changes if you lose to the frigging Coyotes in a play-in. Listen, is this a real Stanley Cup?
Yes.
Okay, then you make decisions based on how you perform in these playoffs, everybody. If this is a real Stanley Cup, you need to make decisions based on your team's performance. And if the Preds continue to suck and lose,
Steve,
you got to do stuff. Sorry to get you out of bed.
Steve, are you speaking directly to Justin Bourne, who told you to calm down when you said you were going to take something away from these playoffs when they were done?
Yes. Okay. I'm speaking directly to him for the pure fact that he was right about absolutely everything else. Carolina. Why? Why did I pick the Rangers? Why?
Yep. I don't get it. I don't get that. I didn't get that when you guys picked that either.
No, but it's not just Justin Bourne though. Cause that was the number one thing that I got feedback on. People were messaging me dude, I listened to the show. I've watched you for years, but that's an aggressive take. What's wrong with you? that the Leafs should make. What's
I get that once a show.
You need friggin' help. And I'm I know. All right. But there's something wrong with you if you think the Leafs should make significant. Stop being bad at hockey and win some games. Which team am I talking about?
The Leafs.
Leafs.
The
Preds. Win. Holy shit. It's not. I was about to say it's not hard. It is hard, but it's not complicated.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. If the Bruins lose in the first round, they shouldn't blow it up. They've gotten pretty gosh darn close a few times recently.
Mm-hmm.
The Leafs and Preds blow it out your nose. I'm sick of the Preds. I'm sick of that team. I'm sorry. You're done. They're in the worst spot possible, which is on the way down.
Yeah, and some heavy contracts too that would be pretty tough to unload. So
there's nothing like spending. Let me do a little bit of math. Nothing like spending $22 million on 3 second line centers. Awful.
Yes. Oof. Kyle Turris, Matt Duchene, Ryan Johansson.
Yeah, and I'm being generous saying 3.
Yeah,
Turris
I don't think
is your second line center on what team?
Yeah, I don't think on
what team?
Not on a winner, not anymore. Turris has disappeared. It's not. I don't know what happened. Just fell off.
And this Preds fans are Yeah, we get it.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think they disagree. I think it's
Fair.
just sucks. It just sucks. Now, that's all the actual playoff ones, guys. Let me be honest with you.
No, lie to me.
I'm gonna lie to you.
Okay.
I don't give a shit about the plans for the good teams.
No,
The good teams can go away.
It doesn't matter.
But that was the Nas
It does-
goal.
Well, I guess.
Yeah.
Do we need
No,
do we need
you're
to
right.
talk about how the Flyers
See,
and Bruins are good?
The play-in game, the top team seeding games don't matter because
They
home
don't.
ice doesn't matter because home ice doesn't exist because they all play in the same friggin' arena at the same
Yeah,
time with
like
no
it's
fans.
a pointless thing.
Like
They're just
so-
trying to get them to play. It's more
It's just
exhibition,
seeding.
basically.
Yeah.
I did like Bruce Cassidy's press conference. That's about the most interesting thing that's happened in those games. So it's going forward on this show, unless there's a great Selly to talk about, probably not going to talk about them too much because there's not a lot of storylines coming out. Because what do you get to extrapolate? Well, the very good Philadelphia Flyers beat up on the very good Boston Bruins.
Mhm.
Okay.
The only thing I can take from it so far, like who looks the best? Who looks the my original for my Sportsnet bracket, my original Stanley Cup final was the Flyers and Avs, and I changed it mid-show to the Penguins and Avs, and I live in regret. But the
Ooh.
two best-looking teams right now are the Avalanche and the Flyers.
Man, it's
That's
unbelievable
all.
how the Flyers have come on this year. Holy moly.
They're a great hockey team, man.
Great
hockey team. They have skill, and they do that thing. Oh, they frigging try. Just try. Just try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we mentioned this on the last show. We're going to talk about it again. You guys saw Matt Dumba's speech.
Yes.
Heartfelt, moving, touching, hit all the right things, all the right notes, all the right info in a pretty succinct amount of time. And this is a guy that does not give speeches for a living, right? That's not he's not a trained speaker. He doesn't talk shit like we do for a living. And this guy, I thought, went out there and absolutely nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. The one thing that gets me, though, is the next day, he's standing on the bench for the national anthems with his hand up in the air, and not a single player on his team does the same. And I'm going to read you a tweet from Greg Wyshynski because I think this is a good tweet. Now, Greg was quoting somebody else, and I can't remember the person's name at the moment, but as I bring up the tweet, I will read it to you. So it's John Matisse, right, Steve? John Matisse?
Oh, I think Mattis. Yeah.
Mattis. Okay, sorry, John. Asked by John Mattis if there has been talk among Wild about joining Matt Dumba in the fist raise or locking arms during the anthem. Coach Dean Evison said, "Nope, there's been no discussions. The only thing that we've discussed as a staff is that we want to eliminate racism for good." So my question is, if you have a broken arm and you are walking around going, what do I do with this broken arm? Does it help to have a bunch of people around you go, man, I don't like broken arms. Do you like broken arms? No, I don't like broken arms.
I would never support broken arms.
I don't support broken arms. I'm anti-broken arm.
Yeah.
Anti-broken arm.
Some of my best friends are arms. No?
But does your arm remain broken if you don't set it and put it in a cast and maybe get some metal screws in it, depending upon how bad it's broken? Guys, does your arm remain broken if you do nothing to fix it? Well,
Yes.
maybe it'll heal eventually.
It might
Maybe
heal
not.
weird.
It's going to heal weird.
Yeah, a little
Yep.
crooked. Yeah.
Now
So-
we're getting too medical.
What are we to make of this? Are we committed to this or are we not committed to this? And I say we as in hockey community. Because it seems like there's a lot of people on the fan side of things that are more than happy to see players kneel, lock arms, whatever it is. And again, I keep saying chicken shit, man. Like Matt Dumba, after he gives the speech, is the only one who kneels.
And I'm sorry, Matt Dumba, who came out to make a speech during a Blackhawks Oilers game.
Yeah.
What? What?
I think that's because there was-
Why was he made to be the sacrificial lamb?
Well, I
Like
think that,
I really don't think we're appreciating the balls.
I think
He,
part of that.
The
I think
initiative.
part of that, hold on. I think part of that is Edmonton, major hockey center in Canada, Chicago, major hockey center in the United States. I think they were looking at eyeballs, right? Does that sound fair to you guys?
It could also be he plays for the Minnesota Wild, Minnesota, George Floyd.
Mhm.
Could be that.
But that's why they would pick that game, because it would probably have more viewers.
Oh, okay.
That's what
I
I'm trying to
understand.
say.
I understand. Okay. Could be that. Question for the both of you. So he kneels. He makes a speech. He kneels. He raises his fist. Nobody joins him. And I couldn't help but feel like that almost made it worse. You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah.
100%,
It was worse than before anybody had kneeled, right?
Now, Jesse, your mic cut out a little bit there, but say it would start. You said
your mic has a
100%.
weird-
I was just going to say 100% it makes it worth. Can I read a tweet as well? There was a
Love
tweet
that.
Please.
from
Yes.
Nikki Reyes, Sportsnet personality.
Mhm.
She said, "So after the murder of George Floyd in the very city you play for, not one teammate had the balls to support Matt Dumba and the message he bravely delivered." And I felt like just the raising of the fist and nobody else doing it along with him isn't that the entire point of this things? So that we're no longer against racism. We're all anti-racist and we're acting towards things that are racist, so that we're all standing together to boost up the marginalized groups. And they left the one black guy on the ice out there alone, and nobody showed support with him.
They didn't
Like,
even have him on the ice.
Well, Malcolm
Why was he
Subban
on the
and-
bench raising a fist? Like, how hard is it to put him in the starting lineup?
Right.
Have him
Yeah,
on the ice.
He's Matt Dumba. You put
Let
him
him
in
kneel.
the starting lineup.
He's
Right.
Matt Dumba. He probably ought to be.
Yeah.
The whole thing is about showing solidarity and coming together, and they did exactly the opposite and let an individual stand out and do the work for himself.
And it's what we've been talking about, where we're leaving it up to black people to solve white people being racist.
Right. We're leaving it up to the people at the bottom to try and fight their way up instead of the top lending a hand down and scooping them up.
Mhm.
You know, and just leaving him out there, it did feel worse because it just showed again the willingness of the players to not just show some support. And their slogan on the back of them is "We skate for," and then it says Black Lives. But it wasn't we, it was I. It was one guy standing there. There was no we in that moment. And that irked me the wrong way for sure.
It's the only league, man. The only league.
Yeah.
And listen,
It's I feel like, every time we tweet about this or whatever, there's a lot of people telling on themselves in the mentions.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people telling on themselves.
not
man.
even subtle.
There's a
Paul,
lot
it's
of-
just spotlighting yourself, man.
Yeah.
You just did not read. You just did not pay attention. And the best one I've seen, and I'm sorry to cut you off, Steve, is, well, most of these players are Canadian.
Well, and then Matt.
Oh, fucking what, man?
So Matt Dumba-
what?
So I didn't
That
recognize
doesn't happen
this.
here. Come on.
I didn't recognize this, but supposedly he kneeled for the American and not the Canadian. And he has since said that he wishes he kneeled for the Canadian one too,
Right.
because he's got Indigenous family.
Yep.
And I don't know if you've been watching the news, but pretty awful things happening to them. Couple things. Please, there are too many things tugging at your energy right now for you to be wasting time on anybody trying to seriously or jokingly explain to you that kneeling on the ice is hard.
Are people doing that?
Yes, and
That's
please
stupid.
stop responding to those people because they're either joking or stupid. Let's not, as someone who is bad at skating, let me tell you, it is one of the easiest things you can do. As a matter of fact, every time I fall down, I'm like, kneeling is easier. See how I'm going 0 kilometers an hour? This is better. Now, as for the kneeling thing, I said to someone, if you don't get it by now, it's because you don't want to. But maybe you didn't get the memo. So let me read something from Kendall Coyne Schofield. Okay, this was from a series of tweets that she had not too long ago. She said, I was one of the people who initially thought Colin Kaepernick kneeling was disrespectful. I reacted to what he was doing instead of why. Then I listened and learned. Instead of just deleting a misinformed tweet, I posted 4 years ago. I should have been clear back then and now, and not just knowing it, but I should have said it. So let me be absolutely clear. It was never about the flag. It was never about my family members who served. It wasn't about me. It always was and is about George Floyd and the countless others who came before him. It's about justice and equality. I know better. I will continue to do better. Now, you've heard that. And if you don't get it from now on, it's because you don't want it.
Mm-hmm. It's a pretty simple concept.
Yeah.
The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. Second best time is now. All that stuff. Now you know. And if you don't get it, you don't feel like it. And I don't know what to do about that.
The funny part is like there's nothing that's really up for debate here. The stats back it up. The conditions, social conditions back it up.
Yeah, there's nothing up for debate. Well, I disagree, said everybody.
This thing is that you sometimes it's like it's the age of truth that we live in, where alternate truths and things like that. I know that people like to put a bow on that stuff and go, well, you got to open up the floor to debate. It's like saying water isn't wet. If it's a proved fact, you can't really debate it. It is what it is. So what you're going to do about it and how you're going to act on that is up to you. And I think that the NHL, as somebody tweeted to me, the NHL never misses an opportunity to miss an opportunity.
Who said that?
I forget. And whoever you are, man, it was a funny tweet.
Funny.
Damn it, that's good.
Yeah. There's a lot of people too also just trying to take away from the actions, being like, why does it matter if they do this if they're doing this another way? Like, I saw people arguing like, hey, the Leafs wore Black Lives Matter shirts the first day they walked into practice. I'm like, okay, that's good, but you need to show your support, and these things matter to these communities, because on Saturday I was watching the Raptors game, and then my girlfriend came home in the middle of while I was watching the game, and she just stopped and she glanced at the TV and she's like, whoa, that's so cool that Kyle Lowry is wearing a education reform jersey. That's crazy that that's happening. She had no idea that it was a thing the NBA had outlined and all that stuff, but just seeing that passing on TV meant something. And just if the NHL could just show support, it means something to these communities. Don't diminish what kneeling or raising your fist means to me, because it means something to me. And by you saying like, why does it matter if they kneel? It matters to me. So it's disrespectful to diminish that to these communities who care about these issues.
Let me ask you something, guys. What is a flag?
Cloth.
No, what is it though? What is a flag? What does it represent?
A symbol of a country? Oh.
Symbol of a country. And the reason that they started to have flags and banners was because it was your family or your country, and it was so other people could know symbolically who you were a part of, because countries don't really exist. There are like imaginary borders.
Now we're not
really
house. Let's go.
But really, a flag exists as a symbol, a representation of a country. All we are asking, and all people who are disadvantaged are asking, is that you symbolically acknowledge that they're disadvantaged.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
It's not about the flag. We've established that.
It's
not about the military. We've established that. Stop saying it.
So if you are, listen, if you are anti-symbol, that's one thing, I guess. But you can't be pro-flag, which is a symbol, and then anti-kneeling because it's anti-flag. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Both are symbolic of something. All they're asking is very bare minimum. That's it.
Can I bring up a little thread that I thought was also it perfectly illustrated what the problem is? From Hamel Javari, from USA Today. First question. This is after the Blackhawks Oilers game. First question for the Blackhawks after that historic moment on the ice. 5 points. Can you just talk about that game and how it was? Second question. What was it like without fans?
What a question. Talk about that game and how it was.
Talk about that game and how it was. Second question. What was it like without fans? First question for Taves, captain of the Chicago Blackhawks. Talk about the power play. Mm. Second question for Taves in French. which he is also answering in French. And then she put upside down smiling face. So I guess, I don't know. I don't speak French either, so I would have had trouble with that. ESPN's Greg Wyshynski, the only reporter to ask about Dumba's decision to kneel, and it was the final question. Taves said it was a great gesture by both teams and that he was told about it yesterday. Didn't really offer anything more than that. Duncan Keith didn't have anything to say. But the big takeaway there is it was the final question.
And it was Greg asking.
And it was Greg because
Greg
of
would
course.
ask.
Well, my assumption is Greg had a different question. And I've been in scrums before. I'm not a professional journalist. I've dabbled. I would.
I'm not a chef. I cook eggs.
I cook eggs.
I can scramble some eggs.
But I would in that scrum, I would go under the assumption that question would get asked long before I had the opportunity.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose it doesn't have to be the first one, but the fact that it almost went unasked at all.
Mm-hmm.
You know, okay, the game happens. You know, it's a big game. It's fresh in your mind. You know, I don't have a problem with it not being the first question. I'd like it to be, but whatever. The fact that it almost got missed entirely. Come on. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's behind, man. It's behind.
Hockey.
It's behind
needs
baseball, football, basketball.
And if you're
hockey
behind
needs a
baseball,
complete
come on.
overhaul of culture. Like, you know.
Yeah.
I would let Gary Bettman sleep in my guest bedroom before I let Manfred run the league that I watch the most. And hockey's behind them in regard to this.
And I thought Rob Manfred's been an upgrade over Bud Selig. Holy moly. But if you're behind baseball, you're behind. You're really behind. So anyway, that's our thoughts on it. If you disagree, I don't care. Frankly, I don't care.
Look at you still here.
I just don't. Yeah, I know. Let's do the press conference. But first, let me use the washroom. Guys, it's our first press conference in a little while. While Jesse is pulling up the myriad questions, I just want to throw out a little package to myself that came in the mail. This was I got myself a little pre-summer present. It took like 6 weeks to arrive.
Little package.
But, well, that's life with me. But look, it is a real Great Britain hockey jersey. And
we're shit. And we know we are, we're shit.
Oh, it froze?
And we know we are, we're shit.
All right.
Adam,
And
you're
we
back.
know
Did it freeze?
we are, we're
Yeah,
shit.
it froze for a little bit.
Anyway,
Couple
Great
seconds.
Britain hockey jersey.
Hey.
It's my favorite. This is my favorite of all the international hockey jerseys. I think Great Britain did the best job. So, and check out the sleeves on these, eh? They're so cool. Anyway, so I waited. I've been messaging back and forth with a few of our British listeners. And I've been saying, guys, how the hell do I get because there was the only things that were available were medium, which is too small for me, or double XL. All the XLs and the larges were gone. And I was upset. And they were like, well, this is in the fall. They were like, well, Adam, you know, the under 20 tournament's coming up and England's in it. Great Britain's in it. So, which are different, by the way. Great Britain's in it. So maybe you'll just get lucky. Well, that was canceled. But for some reason, they made more jerseys, and I was able to get one. So I am so thrilled to have it. Although there's some odd things about this jersey, including this collar, which I've never had a jersey collar stick up like this. But I think it's because it's British, and it's very proper.
That's European style. A lot of the Swedish, Finnish.
Oh, they
those
pop
leagues.
up?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
There you go.
I'm very proud of this jersey. I know no one else cares, but I love it. And shout out to our British listeners who are far more numerous than you'd think. It's actually kind of surprising. We have a lot of British listeners.
I think it's our third country.
Yeah, a lot of Canadian expats there, but also just a lot of British hockey fans.
Yeah.
And the official, I know the British official ice hockey league follows all of us on Twitter, and they listen to the show as well. So shout out to them. I mean, that program, along with, I think Germany's a program that's come up a long way. Great Britain's one that's come up a long way. And I think Japan's is on the rise as well. So there's some pretty cool stuff happening in the world. And this is good. If you're a hockey fan, we need this to be a world game. It can't just be a North American game anymore.
Listens from the UK all time for the podcast.
You don't have to give the. Are you giving the exact number?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
386,000
That's pretty good.
from the UK. That's
Yeah.
wild to me. Just listens. Gosh darn, you guys are wonderful.
Yeah, love that. Love that. Jesse, first question.
First question comes from longtime listener, longtime tweeter, Bryson.
Mm-hmm.
Bryson BLT on Twitter.
Mm,
This is for you,
bacon,
Adam
lettuce,
Wilde.
Bryson.
For me.
How many more songs at 120 BPM did the game need?
Well, I respected the fact that Sportsnet, although definitely not listening to me, they went out and bought big. A U2 song is not cheap. So Where the Streets Had No Name was the one that was playing last night. So they brought out the big guns for the playoffs. And listen, I get what they're saying. I get what they're doing with, not buying big game, non-big games, big songs for big games. You know what I mean? Like, you don't buy a big song for an exhibition game. And they had the Arkells thing with Budweiser or whatever that came out as well. That was cool. I felt amped up during the broadcast. I was happy with how that. Didn't you?
I don't listen for the music.
I
only
don't listen
notice
for
it
the
when
music
I'm there.
either, but I'm talking about the energy was good. That's what I was saying. That was my point. The point was not the music last time.
It only affects me when I'm there.
Okay.
I'm on Steve's side. I watch hockey for the hockey, not like you, Adam, who watches it for the production.
Most of the time, I barely even notice it.
Mm.
Sorry, man.
I know I'm not alone.
It does bug me when I go to a game and then I won't go for like 6 months and I come back and I'm like, this is the exact same playlist. This is the first commercial break song.
No, we're not. Yeah, Steve, I'm talking
one.
about the broadcast, though. I'm not talking about the actual in-game music. We had a whole thing about it on the last show about how it was super slow getting into the game.
Oh.
That's what this...
What do you want, Adam? Lundqvist?
Anyway, I thought it was great. It was great.
Harassing my
Let's
employer.
keep going. Let's keep it
All
up.
right.
Let's keep it up. There's 3 months of this to go. Jesse, next question.
Next question comes from Jake Nickel. Jake Nickel wants to know, is rolling 3 lines the right move? Could the Leafs benefit from Spezza and Clifford seeing more ice time in Game 2 and having the big guns more rested for the late game when we need a goal?
I would have liked to see, I just like Jason Spezza as a player, and I feel like it's maybe a good idea to get him in a little bit more than that. Kyle Clifford, I thought, would have actually served a purpose.
Probably, yeah.
So it would have been better to get him in for 4 minutes. But I'm not going to complain that Sheldon Keefe finally gave us what we wanted. I didn't have a problem with him rolling 3 lines. I had a problem with those 3 lines looking like shit. The third line looked great. Kerfoot looks really good.
Really good.
And when the third line is playing as good as it did, minus Kasperi Kapanen not shooting on a breakaway, there's no excuse for the Leafs to lose most nights or get shut out, for crying out loud.
I'm going to add to that. If you're making $12, $11, $10 million a year and playing over 20 minutes in a hockey game is going to tire you out, then you shouldn't be making that kind of money.
And you're playing with a line mate who also makes that amount of money? Right.
There is absolutely no reason why the Leafs should run 3 lines and save anybody at all. No. I mean, you could. I mean, I understand what they're doing. Put Matthews out there, put Tavares out there, put Marner out there, put Nylander out there, put the guys out there that are going to score. I get that. You need to do that. We've been screaming for that. But the idea that you need to rest anyone after 4 months off, I think, is a little premature. No. If you have a broken arm and are playing them with a frozen broken arm, maybe you need a little rest. But beyond that, no. You need to get them out there as many times as you can. The law of averages is when you have a guy on your team that scores 47 goals in less than 70 games, then you put him out there as many times as you can because eventually he's going to put another one in. And that's what I want to see with Matthews. So glad Keefe did it. Let's keep it going.
Our next question comes from Caleb. Caleb wants to know, Caleb Wheaton, should the playoff qualifiers be a permanent thing for the 7 to 10 place teams in each conference?
No, never. Nah. Absolutely not.
What?
No, this isn't baseball. Baseball was like, we have exactly 3 teams make the playoffs or whatever it used to be. Yeah. And people had to beg and plead for 2 decades. And then they got the wild card game.
And now it's going to be more, I think. I think they're looking at more, aren't they? Jesse?
Sure.
Yeah, this season the baseball playoffs have been expanded.
Yeah, and
Good.
I think they're going to remain that way. I think it's going to be 16 teams that make it.
Yeah, this is unique. It's a unique set of circumstances, but 16 out of 32 teams making it. See, the issue, I think, is 16 out of 30 teams was really good. Then 31, and now it's 32.
Mm-hmm.
So you know what? Maybe I will warm up to the idea of there being some sort of playing round.
I wouldn't hate 20 of 32.
I want, you know what? I'd like it to be a wild card game.
Yeah.
I'd like it to be one game. None
That'd
of
be
the best
amazing.
of 5, and now we're waiting on you. And no, a one game must watch in the East and in the West, and then they get to play. Blah. You get this one winner take all playoff game, and you get the privilege of taking on the winner of your conference.
Don't mind that.
I'd watch it. And, it would take some people time to get warmed up to it. I just think there's less of a need for it in hockey because it's four rounds of playoffs.
Right.
But with 32 teams,
I think you're going to have to include more teams. Otherwise, it's just bad for business, frankly.
the wild card game rules. I'll say that as a Jays fan.
Right. And I don't understand. I've never understood why the MLB would want to play less games. There's no business case where that makes sense.
Baseball.
So, yeah, it's
no,
just
the business cases. That's how we've always done it.
right. And when they had 15 teams, okay, I guess that makes sense. But again, they've expanded. They've been at 30 teams for years, so it's stupid. And like Toronto, for instance, and I think Toronto had to be a really good case for them because Toronto hadn't made the playoffs in baseball since 1993, and in 2015 they go on a run and they get there, and all of a sudden the Jays go from getting 20,000 people a night to 55,000. And not only does it have an enormous effect on the Jays themselves, but Rogers, the parent company, has an enormous quarter because everything Rogers goes through the roof because it's a great association. It's a great purchase by Rogers when the Jays are making the playoffs. Everybody wins when you get teams in the playoffs and teams are in it. And there is nothing like playoff baseball. And there's nothing worse than 22 of 30 teams being out of it for the entire last month. Who's going to a Jays game in September when they don't win?
Yeah,
and that's the thing. And under this new playoff scheme, the Jays would have made the playoffs something like 10 years, not 10 straight years, but 10 of the previous 15, 20 years. It's crazy. So yeah, I don't mind a play-in, even if it's a wild card game. It's something. Plus, if you're the players, you love it because you're in. If you're the ownership, you love it too because you get gate, right? You get money.
What's the best game of any series?
The last
Game 7. With the last one. What is the number one stupid sports bar conversation? No. One game, winner take all. Who you taking? And wow, I was really wasted in that scenario. But you get a chance to answer that question.
Yeah,
it's one game.
Agreed.
Who's it going to be?
And what's the cool thing is that if the NHL decides to expand past this, let's say, people would have thought, 15 years ago that it would be nuts that the NHL would even consider going beyond 26 teams. Crazy. So what happens when we get to 36 or 40, right? Because that's probably where they want to go. What happens when you're including potentially other continents? And if they're a smart league, they might want to. I would.
You're going to have to expand it.
You're going to have to expand it. But what it allows you to do is expand the play-in without expanding the play-off for a while. You add 4 more teams to that, just expand the play-in, but the playoffs remain 4 rounds. So you get to keep that integrity for people that matters to. Yeah. I think it should be in a league, 60% of the team should make the playoffs. Money.
Well, 16 in a 32 team league, even I know that math, it's only half.
Yeah, not enough. It's not enough. So yes, I agree. I think you should.
See, I changed my mind from the beginning of that answer to the end of it.
That's why we do this.
Yep.
Final question. And I wanna answer this question first once I throw it out there.
Must be a good one then.
This one's from a real good pro on Twitter. Since we are all in television, he's an RTA grad himself, he mentions.
Yes.
What is your favorite feature or angle about the new NHL or NBA broadcasts? Is there anything they should definitely keep moving forward? Now, I wanted to answer this question by saying I miss the fans. When Mitch Marner got clobbered, I expected, like, my internal brain, it expected a big pop from the crowd, and then it didn't happen, and I missed it. So I don't like the lack of fans. I'm just throwing that out there.
Jim Houston had a funny one on Freddie's huge save.
Yeah.
Where he was like, the computer fans didn't do that justice.
Yep.
And from the broadcast angle, you couldn't really see what happened. You could tell it was a big save, but you couldn't really see what happened. Then they showed the other angle that actually showed what Freddie did, and I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And if instead of that you had half a building that could see it, it's more than that. It's 3/4 of it. You get both ends and the one side. Yeah, I did miss that.
I'm going to take from another league. I got a real kick out of the NBA digital boards where the fans are actually watching from home live,
It's
like
so
on
cool.
Zoom. And Paul Pierce was watching the Celtic game, and the Celtics were losing, and you could see him lying on the side of his couch, like at home, but blasted on the stadium. And I think if you could somehow find a way to incorporate that once or twice a game, and, like, you know, fans pay $10 and they get, you know, 5 or 10 minutes blasted on a board somewhere where it looks like they're watching the game. There's got to be some way to include that forever from now on. And
wear a costume, dress up like Gritty. If you're a Leafs fan and they're playing at home, wear a suit.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Eat sushi.
Yeah.
You know, I think I thought that was such a brilliant idea. I don't know how you incorporate that with fans in the building, but to me, it's like the NBA always does an amazing job of going, what's next, right? The NHL is like, we'll just cover up the seats. The NBA is like, no, how do we bring fans in? How do we do that? And I'm not hating on the NHL setup. It looks amazing, but they didn't look at that and go, what's next? They looked at that and go, what can we do already? And I think the NBA is just, they're the sport to watch. They're the number one. And wow, was that cool? And wouldn't it be fun? Although hockey players are not that much fun, even when retired. Wouldn't it be fun to see Wayne Gretzky like Skyping in for a game, watching an Oiler game? You know what I mean? Or Doug Gilmour, who was, Instagramming up a storm yesterday before the Leafs game, having him watch the Leafs play. That'd be kind of neat, right? I think that there's something to that, and there's something there. And I would just, that's what I would, my ridiculously long answer to that short question is.
I really like that people are able to break down exactly what is being said from the benches because you can hear it.
Yeah. I'm surprised they mic the ice. I really am.
I don't know if they do. I think you just hear it.
They hang a mic down. Yes, absolutely.
Do they?
So
Good.
You can hear the skates. Good. That's why you can hear them talking.
Don't listen. If someone says something truly awful, you bleep it. Don't bleep F-bombs. Don't.
What?
I'm saying don't bleep F-bombs.
It's a family broadcast.
Steve,
don't care.
It's illegal.
There's too many of them. Then don't have the mic. Then don't have the mic.
I agree. You shouldn't have the mic down. But they want to hear the yelling and the skating. But yes, Jesse, go ahead.
Do you want Sportsnet to have a broadcast license?
Because before 9 p.m. you cannot have swearing.
To be cool. I'm asking the CRTC to be cool. Wait, before 9 p.m.
FCC. It's the FCC you got to worry about. The CRTC is pretty benevolent compared to the FCC.
Ruining it again.
State's
ruining it again. Typical. There it is.
No. It's 1:00 in the afternoon. Fuck!
Yes, correct.
Don't do it. See, son? Leo, this is what it is. This is what life is. It's hard.
Hey, go and look at your guide. Check out what channel the game's on and what channel Peppa Pig's on, and don't confuse the two. Hockey's on. Quit ruining my fun. I want to hear the swears. Gosh darn it. I will say this. And I don't know if this is a Sportsnet thing.
We're not going to stop you. You say it.
Friggin' say it, Adam. I don't know if this is a Sportsnet thing or an NBC thing. They have this new high camera. Mm-hmm. And I've seen
the worst thing in sports.
So Jesse hates it.
That's the football one, right? That's on the cables.
Yeah.
They tried that a few years ago with hockey.
Yeah, no.
So, but did you hear how you said it? You're like, I don't like it. Now, I want to say TSN is big on this. They do the behind the net cam for the power play. I hated that thing at first.
Oh yeah.
I hated it. I've grown to like it. We beg for change in this sport so much. And then they try something different and we shit all over it.
No, we want to change in the sport, not in the camera angles. We can see the game fine. You know what angle sucks? Can I just be on? Like, let's just be straight about this. They made a huge deal of this when Rogers bought hockey because they were going to add a whole bunch of. So Steve,
the cable cam, which I didn't mind.
I thought it was okay, which was something they took from the NFL. It works better in the NFL because of the wide field and the big dramatic pauses between play.
It's good for the shootout.
Most of the NBA or of the NFL is waiting for the play to happen rather than it actually happening. But in hockey, it's constantly moving, so it's different. But what I hated was the stupid ref cam. Every time
you hated that?
I hate it because here's the deal: they'd start the game, they'd be ready for face-off, and the camera angle doesn't catch the face-off. But then they always default to that. So you see like the side of John Tavares' face, and you don't see the puck drop, and you don't know when the face-off. The ref cam never actually gets center ice. It gets John Tavares' crotch. And it's like, why are we going to this? Just do the overhead shot down like you normally did so I could see where the puck is going. That is the worst angle in sports. There, I said it.
Yeah, but they don't really use it anymore.
No, because you know why? Because it sucked.
I'd rather see them
face off.
I'd rather see them try and fail than not try anything.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
But you try that once. You don't need to try it for 3 seasons.
Yeah. Do you need a bit of a see what I'm saying? Switch it up with smaller sample sizes. Big change.
Anyway, so you like that angle, Steve. Jesse does not.
I'm willing to give it a chance. I didn't say I like it.
Jesse, what don't you like about it?
The overhead angle?
Yeah.
You can't get a good sense of where the perspective of the players. It's too flat and like one dimensional, I find, when you're overhead, because it throws off your perspective of the ice. And I feel like we figured out the perfect broadcast angle for a hockey game is along the side and you follow the puck.
Right.
I feel like we don't need innovation on that front. And if you want to turn your efforts to somewhere else, more important, like a lot of other aspects of hockey, I feel like you should do that.
Would you take it for a replay? Like, does it work for a replay for you?
I think if you have the money and the technology, keep that camera up there because it might come in handy on some sort of suspension or a hit or some sort of replay, but don't show it during the game. When the play is happening live, keep it on the side view and use it for replays. Use it for replays if there's a controversial call or if you want there's something dramatic. But yeah, we figured out the broadcast.
The thing I always look at, and I agree with you, Jesse, the thing I always look at is how do we watch the greatest game in the world? Soccer is one camera. Back and forth and back and forth. Baseball is like 2. It's not hard to watch the game. And I question, what is the entertainment value when you add all this extra stuff, right? Sometimes those cable angles are cool. Because what I loved about the cable car thing was that you could follow the play up the ice. I thought that was really neat.
I like shootouts.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it for shootouts and penalty shots.
But live during the game, you don't need to change much. Tough. And it's a lot of angles. And frankly, if you've ever been in one of those buses where they actually have the producers calling the camera angles out.
Insanity.
It's insanity. Simplify those people's job. That's like air traffic controller crazy. Like that is a crazy gig. You should look that up what those people have to do to make a game happen. It's like broadcast crews behind the scenes are unbelievable. And I think that, adding to that and the replay is cool, but when these poor people are already calling out the camera angles during the game, it's hard enough.
Ready 2, take 2, ready 3, take 3. Half the time they don't know the score.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
how would they
talk to them 10 minutes after? Like, who won? I don't know.
That's not their job. It's not
their job.
No,
it's chaos. It's chaos.
Yeah. And they're sucking on a fisherman's friend just to be able to talk through the next game. Like it's a crazy gig. I don't know how you even get good at that. Like, where do you practice that?
I'm glad we got to watch a documentary of it when I was in school because there wasn't a whole lot of emphasis on sports stuff. in my program. And I'm like, oh, we're about to watch a sports doc. I'm going to be all about this. And I watched it and I'm like, I will never do that job ever in my entire life. I don't want, I mean, I scream for a living, but like I control the rate at which I scream for my job. That one is just like, and every final minute, like when the most goals are scored and the most action happens, you're just screaming. And then someone tweets when you put an E instead of an A and screws up a name. And it ruins your whole goddamn night. Meanwhile, I was just commanding this truck of 20 people screaming.
Working in sports TV for the brief 8 months that I did, it was cool to see it up close and personal with the Tim and Sid team, because I think that's like, it was a master class in how to run like a studio operation. Like, so I got to shout out like Thomas Dobby. He was their head producer who would do all the camera angles, and I got to sit behind him for most of it. And they're spectacular at what they do. And like you said, Steve, it's not something you really learn. It's just kind of, they know how to do it and they get the reps on the job and they've mastered it over there. So yeah, it's really cool to see it up close and personal.
I really appreciated that they invited me on to co-host that one day, but like the way the show is run, you could have plucked anyone from the Starbucks across the street and just been like, hey, you're co-hosting with Sid today. And they would have done a good job just because of how they run the show.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's an amazing show. It's not easy to do shows like that.
No.
So, and you know what, I have to say, even with like BT as well, like you get up and you move, and it's sort of like there are shows like panels are very planned, right? We know which clips we're going to. We know where everybody's sitting. And, pre-COVID, nobody's getting up to move around. Tim and Sid, they get up and they move and they dance. When I was on breakfast television, same thing. Kevin or Dina, who Kevin's no longer one of the hosts there, but if either of them got up, they'd be like, okay, can you just follow me? And camera would just follow. And the control room would just be on it. And it was expected that they just react. And Kevin would bring up something, or I would bring up something, or whoever was on would bring up something. And they have these little cuts called viz, which are just visuals that can happen while you're talking about something on camera. And they would just be expected to just know, pull up that viz. And you didn't say it, you didn't plan it. It was sort of just pull it up and go. And that job, man, wow. Like what a gig. Brutally tough. But if you're good at it, it's like watching an orchestra. You know what I mean?
Kathy Broderick with Hockey Night in Canada, just decades of Don Cherry going, bring up friggin' just whatever he had at the top of his head at that time. Bring up Bimba, and it always came up.
We'll get to it next week.
It was amazing. Amazing. Yeah. I when I was cutting highlights there for a while, there were these other guys who their job was just to cut stuff he wanted. Like throughout the week, he would literally just be like,
there must have been 20 of them.
Get Guelph at something Storm. And they would just go through the Guelph Storm game and cut shit. And he may or may not even get to it on Saturday night. But they
never did.
They
only gave him enough time for one thing, and they'd line up like 20 things. And that was, he just hit one thing. I'll get to it next week.
No, we'll don't play it. All right, well, don't play. All right, play it.
Anyway.
Holy shit. Like, you talk about someone who is good at their job.
Yeah, no kidding.
Unbelievable.
So,
if
guys,
that's
it. Sorry, what's up? Yes?
I was going to say, if you ever come across John Shannon and you want to talk TV production, that's the guy.
Dude.
Man, I think doesn't he have an Emmy for TV production?
Probably.
From his days.
Yeah, John. A lot of people don't know that John Shannon was the head of Hockey Night in Canada for years off camera.
Oh, he's been in the business forever.
Forever.
Eternity.
Yeah. He's one hell of a storyteller. Like amazing storyteller. So if you ever do, just ask him his favorite story about, I don't know, Hockey Night in Canada, and he'll regale you. The guy is quite an amazing listen, and it's amazing what used to happen in hockey, and I'm sure still does from time to time. So
he has a sports Emmy for the Salt Lake Winter Olympics on NBC.
Oh, he would have done that because he was with CBC and stuff too, right?
Yeah,
so
NBC.
Well, so NBC would have picked him up then.
Yeah, I assume he worked down in the States for the Olympics there. I don't know what the deal is.
Well, it's not uncommon.
You probably don't know this, but when CBC used to just get the Olympics, it used to not be like up for grabs, and they have it again, but it used to be that because it used to be like, well, they're the Canadian broadcasters, so they do it. And because they were a public broadcaster, they could spend more money, and they'd still make money, but like profit wasn't really the goal. The goal was a great broadcast. And Canada was world renowned for their coverage of the Olympics. Like it was, and because it's not like in the United States, it's like, well, you're going to watch this. It's from 5 hours ago. It's recorded, and it's only the American guy. Whereas Canada, it's like, what's the event? Who won the event? And if you're Canadian, you're used to Canadians not being at the top of the podium. It's like, oh, our guy finished 25th. It's great. Hey, man, This is Summer Olympics. Like, great. We're happy. That's not the American attitude on it, right? Yeah. And that's fine. Just difference of opinion. But Canada does a great job of covering not just Canada, but just the event itself. It was, is this a great coverage of the sporting event? And we're recognized consistently. Event. Right. Yeah. Canada was recognized consistently for that flexibility. It's amazing.
They were one of the first countries in the world to just show the Olympics live during what event is happening and not just what their country is doing, which is what the Americans still do. You'll see figure skating at 8 p.m. because there's a whole bunch of Americans in it, and it'll be on a tape delay from 4 hours ago. But Canada, it's okay, this is happening at 2 a.m. We're going to show it live at 2 a.m. and this is everything that's happening, and we're going to break it down like a sporting event. Yes. Not just, hey, this is what Canadians are doing.
And the thing that's now screwing up the American, like NBC, I believe, does it. The one thing that screws it up now is that Twitter exists.
Yep.
Right? So you used to be able to do things on a tape delay, and it's like, well, so too bad. Like, this is when you're getting it.
Not anymore.
Can't do that anymore.
Nope.
So, it's changed the American coverage a little bit. It's still American focused, as you would expect, but it's forced them to go, I guess we're going 24 hours because we're going to get beaten by Twitter. We paid all this money for this broadcast. We might as well do it, right? Yeah. So it's anyway, fascinating. Yeah. And I don't know how we got into this topic.
Hope that answered your question.
Don't think it did, but hey, we love you. And thank you so much for listening. Now the Leafs play tomorrow night.
They sure do.
Well, actually, they play tomorrow at 4.
And they're going to win.
Hopefully. Which means we have a show on Wednesday. So we're going to see you Wednesday because, again, our schedule is going to be a little bit flexible as long as the Leafs are in the playoffs. Don't worry, it probably won't be for long. But Wednesday is going to be our next show in the afternoon, which will mean it'll be posted at night. So be looking out for us then. Thank you once again to Tony, the Team Tiger, from Kellogg's. Frosted Flakes. Eat them during the game. They're delicious. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. We're so excited to welcome you aboard. Yes, Steve? You're awfully close.
Steve's great.
Yeah.
They're great.
They sure are, Tony the Tiger.
Frosted Flakes. That
Go ahead,
for
Jet.
some Frosted Flakes.
What are they?
What
are they?
If you talk during Jesse's thing, his mic deletes it so we can't hear it.
Flakes are.
They're great.
Thank you.
There we go.
Steve,
Thanks so much for listening. We will be back Wednesday. Good luck to your team, whoever they are, except for Columbus.
The Steve Dangle Podcast. Follow the guys on Twitter at Steve_Dangle, at Adam WYLDE, and at Jesse Blake. Connection complete.